Deuce and friends. We got some friends joining us from the comm squadron, from the CRD. Thanks for coming out. Today, does anyone know what the topic is today? Or we just sent out, hey, we're having PD in the auditorium. All right, surprise, we got a guest speaker. For our PD program, this is big for us because we're actually not only reaching outside of the squadron, we're reaching outside of the DoD to talk to one of our former Double Deuce members, Technical Sergeant retired, Will Harden, the Honorable. Will and I go back a long ways. I'm not going to give you his bio because he's gonna talk about his life and experience. But for me, it's just really cool. When I came back to the C5, got to go to his retirement, which was probably the best attended retirement I ever been to. It was like a rock concert out of the CRW, and then we ran into each other at Costerson's retirement. I said, hey man, you should come on out, you know, talk to the young people in the squadron, get them fired up, and he took me up on it. So I'm really excited to have him back. There's certain people in your life, when you see them, you give them a handshake, a high five, or you bump elbows. Every time I see Will Harden, I give him a hug, because I love this man. We got to do some stuff, which is a testament to the bonds you guys are going to build over the years in the C5 and in the Air Force in general. You're going to make connections and relationships, and they're going to endure. And it's cool to be here 10 years after we first met each other, and we're doing this. So thanks to him for coming out. A couple things I want to take with you at the end of his talk here. The Double Deuce and the Air Force as a whole, family doesn't stop. That concept of family, it does not stop at PCS. It doesn't stop at separation or retirement. Like I said, the bonds you build are going to carry through your whole life. Secondly, relationships and skills matter. It's not just an AFSC thing. So you're going to get to hear from a loadmaster who started as a baby load in the Double Deuce, went over to the CRW as a loadmaster, and now he's doing something that he's not pushing pallets. He's doing amazing things in the civilian sector. And that leads me to my third point, and why we invited our comm partners over is to hear about what's going on in satellite communication, that sort of world, and get you fired up about the future, because the future is in space internet communications. That was a really short intro because I know he's got a lot of good stuff to talk to you about. So it is my privilege, my honor to introduce the notorious, the one of a kind, Will Harden.
I will be honest. Whenever I was deciding, to come over here, obviously everybody kind of goes over when you're going to talk in front of a group of people. And I've given probably several speaking engagements over the last, couple of years of my life, especially. Sorry, have a seat. You're late, but we won't judge you. No, honestly, this one is going to be hit a lot closer to home for me personally. And the reason being is that this literally, this building, this room, that jet this is what built me. And I'm not saying that as in an Air Force sense, I mean the 22nd Airline Squadron. Colonel Kramer's right. I was a baby load. I came in here, got assigned to the 22nd. I was sitting in those back two rows back in 2005, listening to people stand on this stage. It was on this stage. I was issued my leather jacket. It was, on this stage that I've had stripes tacked on, met with friends, lost some friends along the way, obviously, in the squadron. The things that you're going to see and do in the 22nd and in the Air Force as a whole are absolutely going to change your life and set you up for success. They at least did me, right? I mean, I'm not going to lie, a couple of trips to the commander's office from time to time, a couple of trips to the first shirt's office from time to time with the chief load, but every decision that you make while you're here in this unit and in the Air Force is only going to set you up for success on the outside if you let it, right? I can't speak for everyone here, but for me, how many times have you been on the stage and somebody, comes up and tells you, hey, this is the recipe for success, or this is what I think you should do? And especially for those of you, and I'm talking to everyone. Obviously, the first couple rows are typically leadership, but I'm really talking to you guys in the back. Right? How many times do you hear that and they say, oh, this is, you've got to do this to get a good PT score, do this to make sure your WAPS test, well, do we do WAPS testing anymore? But you always get that, right? There is, I'm going to tell you the truth. There is no secret recipe to success. There's no winning formula that works. It's a one size fits all. There are common goals, there are common attributes that set people up for success, but each person's recipe is your own, right? If you're an introvert, I'm not gonna say that I recommend you go to every single speech engagement in the world. Maybe that does help you, become better a speaker, but might not be your strong suit, right? You're gonna have to figure out what it is that you get to put in your toolbox that is specific to you, and then how do you package that up, right? We're going to go through today, and I've got myself some talking points. I have a slideshow, but for anyone that's spent any amount of time with me knows I like to talk. And so I just wanted to hit some key points along the way, but I'm going to sprinkle today with some good, fortune cookie little ditties and some other fun facts along the way, and maybe some recipes or some ingredients for your recipe. But I'm not just going to sit up here and click through a PowerPoint and talk at you. I want to talk to you, and I want this to be interactive, and of course we'll open it up towards the end. So I'm going to get into what I'm doing, and then we're going to kind of transition into how I got here. But one thing I definitely want to say is that as I'm telling you some of these things, like, hey, this is what I recommend, or do this, or don't do that, and things like that, you have to figure out everything you do, whether you're a pilot, an engineer, comm squadron, load master, everything you do. Of course, I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to say it a few more times, right? There's two things I'm going to say. One, document everything. You sit here all the time. Actually, you were in awards and techs, and you made that tracker, which I still have to this day. Document everything that you do while you are in this squadron, while you're in the Air Force, right? Because there is going to come a time. One of a first sergeant that I had here, one of the last first sergeants I had for transition to CRW, she told me something, and it's true, and it will stick with you forever. This career will end in divorce. Someday, you have to take off this uniform. You cannot do this forever. Even if you go become a reservist and do it for another 20 years, you will eventually have to end, right? And then, if you do want to transition into civilian workforce, you're going to have to package up all these things that you've learned, all these experiences you've had, the training that you've had, the CBTs that you've done. Because, yesterday was Veterans Day, and thank you, every one of you, for your service. There are people that I was on a call doing something very similar to this yesterday. Every one of them, thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody is grateful for what you do. But you have to help them understand when you're looking to leverage this in the future to your benefit, that they don't understand what a Bravo is. They don't understand what legal for Charlie meant. They don't understand what a duty day looks like. Or if you say, the Vol 3 or something like that, they're like, acronym soup? That sounds cool. So you have to figure out as you transition through this career, as you document everything, how you're going to package that up on the back end to set yourself up for success. So that was a way long intro, and I apologize. We get a little bit of word vomit, but that's kind of what I do. So you guys are just going to have to bear with me. But I want to say thank you, Colonel Trumbull. Thank you so much for hosting me and allowing Colonel Krim to invite me, and Sergeant Collins. I didn't see the shirt anywhere, but thank you, shirt. To all of my friends that I actually flown with, there's a few of you. I see De La Rosa, I see Hamataki. We've got some old friends still in the room. So I mean it when I say it. I started in this room, sitting back there, and this speech is going to hit close to home because I'm getting to talk to my people. I'm home when I'm here. And so you'll also have to probably forgive my comfort level because, literally, I've been sitting in that back row, and I've had a few long Friday nights and show back up, oh, God. Anyway, all right, without further ado, before I go into, the first slide is, but who am I and where am I at now? And this is why I'm really glad our communications partners are here, and I'd absolutely love to have a conversation offline if you guys would like afterwards. I work for a company called Astrana Space, the Space Technologies Corps. Say that 10 times fast. I was not looking to get into the space world. I was not trying to get into satellites. Obviously, the 22nd has a specific skill set with our two Scumbirds. And so I was definitely exposed to the space community. But whenever I retired, and we're going to get into why I retired a little bit early later on, I was actually chasing a management consulting firm. I was chasing Accenture. Because what should any washed up retired load master examiner do? Go tell people how to do their job better. Just don't ask me to do the job, right? How many times on the jet, restraint doesn't look right. How would you do it, Sergeant Harden? Don't ask me a dumb question. Just fix it, right? Rotor load doesn't look right. What did you come up with? I don't know. We get the eye back. So management consulting, right? I thought, okay, this would be a natural transition. This would be a good step for me. And I chased them for about 7 months. We'll get into networking, why that's important, right? So I had some great networking, some family friends that were there. They're like, we're going to get you on. We're going to get you on. 7 months into that chase, my wife, who I love dearly, she was like, look, I love that you're you're chasing this goal, but you've got to get out of the house because I had my Netflix series dialed in. And so at the end of about the 7-month mark, I said, okay, every night for an hour, I would get online. Typically, which I highly recommend if you're targeting a career whenever you transition out, or even when you're just trying to move around inside of the military, right? You're going to target your package. You're going to tailor it to the audience that you know is going to be reading it, right? So I had tailored that really down to Accenture, what I thought they'd want to see. And then I got to where I just wanted to make her happy, so for about an hour every night, I would just go on LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter and one-click apply. I didn't even tailor the resume. I was like, yeah, that'll be fun. That looks like interesting. Maybe I'll do that. So I click. One day, I get a phone call from a man named Christian Kyle. He said, hi, my name's Christian Kyle. We came across your resume. Love to set up a phone interview. He told me the position. I kind of half-heartedly was like, yeah, sure. Set it up. Send me an email. And then he sent me an email. He was like, hey, that phone conversation's coming up. And I had to go, yeah, what position was that for again? He was like, the operations manager. I was like, oh, yeah, of course. I knew that. So do some quick research, right? Getting kind of my little bit of analysis on the position. Did one on the phone interview, and he said, hey, I'd love to have you in for an in-person. I said, cool, I guess I did something right. Show up to the in-person interview. This is downtown San Francisco. It's actually the old Instacart headquarters. You walk in, they literally shove an iPad in your face, sign this NDA before you take a step further, and then you glance to the right, and there's this massive clean room with a satellite sitting in it. And I'm like, holy crap, like this is real, right? 7-hour in-person interview. I'm not saying that's going to be everybody's, experience, but for me it was 7 hours. One of my first interviewers, his name is John Bowen. He walks into, they have these different conference rooms, and by the way, it is space, so I am becoming nerdier by the day. Every room is labeled after something on the Star Trek Enterprise. Everybody is like a Star Wars fan. Like, I now play Magic the Gathering, the card game. Don't judge me. I'm pretty good. Black and white deck all the way. Anyway, so this is baffling, right? And my interviewer, John Bowen, he walks in. There's a big whiteboard in the shuttle bay, I believe was the room I was in. He draws 2 circles. He shades the top circle. He goes, that's the Earth. That's the moon. That's where it's at. Tell me north, south, east, west. And what's the moon going to do in its next phase? And I was like, ooh, okay, weird. A space company. Thankfully, I paid half-ass attention in NAV and SEER school and my CRW Alpha Mike days, so I worked my way through it. He goes, we're supposed to work through that together, but well done. I was like, SEER and CRW for the win. 7 hours later, though, I left the interview. It was a great interview. I didn't think I did horribly, but at the end of the day, this is space, right? Space is hard. I'm a load master. Couldn't tell you an apogee from a perigee if you paid me to. And then I didn't think it was going anywhere. I jumped on a flight with my wife and we went down to Scottsdale to hang out with my in-laws. And then their VP called me and she said, hey, we thought about numbers. We'd like to make you an offer. Fast forward a couple weeks and I'm at Astronis, Space Technologies, and I am literally going, oh my goodness, how in the world did this happen? How am I here? What did I do in my career that set me up? Because this isn't operations management, and I know a lot of y'all have experience with our space counterparts out when we work, either taking stuff down to Vandenberg or to the Cape. This isn't that world. I'm negotiating $1 million deals with vendors. I'm sometimes driving a truck with the stuff, with the actual components of the satellite down to test. I'm identifying different vendors for different components of the spacecraft. Now, what in the world as a loadmaster and a CRW member qualified me to do that? And the answer is that there's not one CBT that I ever took that said, this is how you're going to excel in the space world. It didn't happen. It's what I learned from the individuals in this room, from being in this room, from being in this building, and from being on that jet that I figured out I could leverage, that the outside world is thirsting for. They are looking to you guys. You guys have such unique skill sets. It's just figuring out how to package them up and present them in a way where they go, that's the guy, that's the girl, that's who we need on our team. We're going to get into that some, right? But I talked to you a little bit about Astronis, right? So I told you I kind of touched on where I was at Astronis. So that you're looking at is actually a picture of an Intelsat satellite. That actually looks a lot like what goes in those white cans that you guys have taken around the world. That's actually what they look like on the inside. They're massive. They're huge. They're heavy. For those of y'all that don't know a lot about the space world, there's a little word we use called SWAP, or an acronym called SWAP, which is size, weight, something, and power. every morsel that goes to space is ridiculous. You think aviation and airplane parts are expensive? Get into the space world. You can add 2 more zeros on the end of it. Space is very, very hard. One of our core values at Astronis, which I helped implement some core values because we are still technically a startup, even though we're 5 years old, is space is hard, right? Because you learn throughout your career, lots of stuff's hard, right? But if you can identify that and put a tangible feeling to it, you can help set yourself and your teammates up for success and how to address certain issues. So what my company has done is they said, okay, these old legacy satellites, they're called legacy, and as we've transitioned into Space Force, and General Raymond himself has said, we have these legacy satellites that are big, juicy targets, and everybody knows that Russia and China has the ability to knock them out of the sky now, right? So what are we going to do to mitigate that? As well as we are a for-profit company, so we do have telecommunications as well, is my company decided we are going to make a satellite from the size of a school bus and crank it down to the size of about a washer and dryer. And it's called a micro geobus. And so what we've done is a satellite like that, which is an Intelsat, and you guys know what Intelsat does. They provide for DoD as well as some others. That's our satellite. Its name is Arcturus. I didn't name it. They named it before I got there. So after a bear guardian, it's Norse mythology. That's mythology. With one satellite the size of a washing machine, we are going to triple the coverage of the state of Alaska. We have some secret sauce that goes on board. I'm sure with our communications brethren, we can talk about that later, but FPGA and SDRs, which is just a really fancy way of saying the old satellites, when you put them up in the sky, they do like one thing. It's like putting a calculator up in the sky, right? You tell it to do something, it will do that, but there's not much you can do other than turn it on and turn it off once it's up in the sky. That sounds really counterintuitive for when you think about where we are in the world of technology, but it is still, I mean, once it goes up, and it costs a lot of money to get it there, so you want to put stuff up in the sky they call has heritage or legacy, meaning it's flown in space before. And the stuff that's done that is old, but it's reliable. So a lot of the big names, your Lockheeds, the NRO, and a lot of other agencies, they like to use stuff that's old but works. But in order to do that, you have to put redundant systems. It's cost a lot of money. You have to put them on giant rockets, which you guys help get to space. Our company said, no, we're going to use the newest tech. We have our chairman of our board is the longest tenured director of NASA. And we have some other people like that that are really smart. And what they've done is they took what's called an SDR. And an SDR, software-defined radio, is, I lovingly say it's like we're putting the first iPhone in space, right? We send our satellite up. We have our first customer. Obviously, it is the company that takes care of the state of Alaska. It's got a mission life of 10 years. And if after that 10 years or even before that, we need to change it up and what we're doing, we can Control-Alt-Delete it and upload new software and completely change the game and even do some minor burns to relocate if we have to, right? It is a game-changing asset. And it did not take long. And I did not know that we were courting the DoD when I applied to this company. I had no idea. I just thought it was a regular old space company. And as soon as I get in there, I start finding out. And then, of course, they asked me to engage with some people that we are talking to some DoD partners. And it wasn't bad for my company to have me on board when I start throwing out terms like BGANs and things like that. And some of the Honeywell systems are like, ooh, you know what you're talking about. I was like, well, I've used it on the ground. I don't know how it gets there, but it's magic. Goes up, comes down. I can tell you how to use it. So a little bit, and I'm not going to bore you because I really did redact this particular PowerPoint for us. But you can see that's the size of the Intelsat that you were just looking at. The one in the middle there is the size of our satellite with the solar array, obviously tucked in. And you can see how big is that in relation to a person. It's very small. One satellite that size, that is our actual coverage, which I think is kind of proprietary. So, but those spot beams that we can aim, that is what one of our satellites can cover. So think about what that's going to do for the DoD. Think about what that's going to do for the world, right? I mean, really, the technology that we're shifting into is freaking incredible. It is the capabilities that were coming online are incredible. That's what one satellite the size of a washer can do, and that's high speed. You're going to be, if you have our customer is, if you have their service, you can be on top of Mount Denali, fire up your iPhone and stream some Netflix if you want. Like that's where the world is transitioning to, and it's really kind of incredible to see it be a part of it. That was us doing some testing. Obviously, I'm actually there. You can see me. I'm being a loadmaster. Look, making sure clearance. See, loadmaster right there. These are a couple of our partners. Again, I did not know this. Day one, they're giving me my first two projects, right? My VP, my direct boss is our VP of Ops. And she said, Will, we have two main projects we would love you to work with. Vendor outreach and negotiations, and we're going to be launching from Cape Canaveral. And so you know the Air Force, and they've given us this document. Do you think you could fill it in for us? And of course, me being my very first day, I'm like, yeah, of course, Air Force, I got this. They handed me 6,009 line items of McT, straight out of the 91 series of the safety guys from, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm the highest paid McT filler outer ever, like. So, but yeah, so as we learn this and we start figuring out who some of our other partners are that have asked us to do some research and some development, we've really I've started coming full circle back to like, I left the military, I fully transitioned into the civilian world, and then I'm like, oh, but I'm getting an inch back into the military, which every day, you can ask my CEO, I'm like, hey, when do I need to go do an on-site to any of these places? And you do learn some other stuff about, especially our communications brethren. We're talking to some individuals up in Alaska, some of the bases up there. And it's pretty neat to be able to interact again, because I'm not going to lie, like I feel my comfort zone is when I'm around people in uniform, right? It's whenever I'm around the people in civilian clothes and they start talking to me and using big words, I'm like, no, I don't like that, I'm going to go back home. So that is who I am. That is what I am doing at Astronis. That is a little bit of analogy of some of the options we offer the DoD, right? Because the fact is, when you go back to those ginormous satellites, right? And I'm not trying to bore you guys with satellites. I promise we're going to transition into professional development. This is just to let you guys know where I'm at. One of the options that we offer the DoD is that we say it costs a whole lot of money to launch those big satellites. We can launch one in 12 to 18 months. 12 to 18 months. Think about that. If you had, which I hope y'all do have, about $15 to $20 million yourself, someday walk up and say, hey, I want to buy your satellite, and I want to launch it. In 12 months, you could have your own satellite floating up in space, beaming down whatever you need to, information you need to get down to people, right? In a defense-based scenario or a contested and congested environment, we also offer the ability to, if an adversary were to knock down one of our assets, we can replace that very quickly if we don't already have other assets online that we can just move over. So it's a lot of, and I'm really speaking to comment, it's a lot of flexibility for a mission set. Okay, that was Astronis, and I'm sure that bored the hell out of some of y'all. So who am I and why am I here? I think I covered the who am I and why, why Colonel Kramer and Collins asked me to be here. But let's talk about, now that you know a little bit about what I do, and I know that science can be a little bit boring, what qualified me to get there? Why was I able to step into that world? And without a shadow of a doubt, before we get to that, the answer is you. Everyone's sitting in this room. The teammate that you're around, the people that you're around, the accomplishments you're going to have, they're going to set you up for something that may not be outside your wheelhouse. We're going to talk about comfort zone a little bit later on too, right? But you have to understand, even whenever you're sitting there and you're taking the 36-hour, you're sitting 36 hours into a Bravo and they hit you with the alert. And you're just, or it's 120 degrees in Bahrain and they bring out the cutter engine and you're like, you want me to do what? All those things are going to add up to what is going to build you up, to build the foundation, that pyramid, to set you up for success whenever you do someday transition. So, little trip down memory lane, right? And I did actually have some fun with this, right? This is to prove to you guys I really did used to be here. So obviously space stuff, CRW time, some of the best individuals. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for Aguilar, he's not that great, but the rest of them really good guys. The rodeo, that's actually you guys, that's actually the 22nd. That was in Roosevelt Road. I snapped a picture of you guys over there. I have a couple other videos. This is Iraq, and I found that on my phone. There's not many people that know it. Ty, you probably remember Micah King. That was a Q&A session with one of the most gifted loadmasters we've ever had, and that's being nice. So that was some of my time here in the 22nd and in the CRW. And then, not to put a downer on it, told you guys to talk about I retired a little bit earlier, right? July 24th, 2018, I actually had orders to go back to Dover flying a couple weeks prior. And what's up, buddy? And on that day, they said, hey, there's a bump on your neck. We want to go ahead and take a look at that and cut that out just to be on the safe side because Dover has a clinic, not a hospital. Took it out. July 25th, they called me back in and said, you have stage 3 melanoma. And I said, oh, shit. To be honest, my first question I asked the doc was, am I still going to Dover? And he said, no, man, you're not going to Dover. And so I said, okay, I don't know why that picture flopped, but it did. September 6th, 2019, that was actually the day of my last treatment. I'm actually here today to give this presentation here, but also I have my 6-month PET scan scheduled over at Nuclear Medicine, right? So I tell you all that to set you up for things are going to happen too in your career that you're not ready for. I promise you, that was not on my roadmap of success anywhere that was going to happen to me, but it did. And so you have to figure out when things happen to you, one, what have you done with your past to set yourself up for success when things happen that jerk you left or jerk you right? What have you put in your toolbox that's gonna bail you out, right? You can't be a loadmaster, engineer, pilot, comm officer forever, right? You got to do something eventually. So what have you put in your toolbox? I ended up at astronomist. If I'm lying, I'm dying here. I remember we had that satellite. We were doing some testing, and our chief mechanical engineer. Now, mind you, these people are smart. I joke with the guys I work with and say, you're single-handedly destroying rainforest, the amount of diplomas they have to print to give you guys. I mean, I work with really smart MIT, Harvard, Stanford, all these people. My chief mechanical engineer, who's actually this guy, Sam, who's one of Elon Musk's besties, came from SpaceX, tosses me a wrench. He goes, hey, start taking those bolts apart on the bottom there. Specifically these bolts on the bottom. I'm like, whoa, I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to touch your satellite. And he was like, you are today. Why in the world would they trust me? Why would they trust a guy that I've never worked at SpaceX in my life? We talked about this. It's the character. It's the experiences that I had while I'm here. It's the personality that I had built over the course of 15 years of a military career. Because I didn't do anything from 2004 until 2019 except the military. Right? There was nowhere in there that I trained for any of this other stuff, right? I didn't think that was fun, or I said, tell Tina. Do we all still do the CBT with Tina?
Same one.
God, she's the worst. She's always asking for that damn CD. I really tried to figure out, what set me up for success to get where I'm at Astronis, and I just kept coming back to it. I kept coming back to, man, it's the pre-flights. It's the attention to detail. You have to do every single thing you do every day that you're here at 110%. You're going to hear me say that a lot, 110%. Because when you're doing a pre-flight or a through flight, it's got to be at 110%, right? Whenever you're checking, some of the tedious, mundane things you do, whether it's writing an EPR bullet, an OPR bullet, whether you're figuring out what you're going to volunteer for, right? You have to give it 110%. It's not because that thing in that moment is what's going to, change the world. It's because, it's because it's putting those little pebbles inside of that pyramid inside of it, right? You're adding to that foundation where someday all that's going to build that full pyramid. And somebody's going to see it. I promise you they will. But you have to take it serious every single day and know that what you're a part of, and specifically to the people in this room, you guys have such a unique story and such a unique opportunity, whether you notice it now or not. And I'm sure you do. I mean, people dote on you. I understand. Big gray airplane, you're flying all over the wild blue yonder, right? It's not lost on anyone that you guys have a pretty freaking cool job. And what is it you get to do? But the thing is that you also have to understand that in doing that job and kind of reveling in that, I don't know how else to say it, that fucking cool-ass glory, in my opinion. I mean, it's awesome. You do have to think about what is it teaching you, other than just how to suffer through a legal for Bravo, or how to run a pre-flight, or how to put a pallet in, or how to log, a flight plan into a box, right? What is that setting you up for on the outside world? For you pilots, pretty easy. Go to Southwest, you're covered. But for the rest of us, what is that going to set you up for? And so don't waste this opportunity. I talk a lot about an ethos and a value system, right? I told you I was going to tell you to get outside of your comfort zone. So first and foremost, again, sitting in this room, I used to sit in TRPs and STRPs, and we're vetting instructors and who should be evaluators, who should be be in what positions and everything. And for so long, I'm not going to name drop him, but he's out there in the would get up and he would say, you have to have your CCAF done. They need to have their CCAF. They need to have their stuff done. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I agree that that we do need to do some extracurriculars, but not at the expense of your job. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to play my own devil's advocate because you can see my second bullet there. You should be focusing on what your life will be once you leave the military, but not at 100%. Right now, the most important job you have on this planet, other than your families, if you're family individuals, is your job, right? You better know your Vol 1, your Dash 9, your 1-4, your 208, your Vol 3s. You better know all of those before you start really trying to emphasize, other areas of your life. Professional or even personal in some cases, right? You have a very important job. That being said, only you know what that recipe looks like. Is it an 80-20? Is it a 70-30? I don't know. You can only answer it for yourself. I'm speaking from experience that I know in order to be the most effective will that there was in the world, I needed to be really good at my job. So that way it allowed me to focus on some of those extracurriculars because I knew I could fall back on being good at being a loadmaster. I had that. I figured that part out. But that didn't come without 4,400 hours on the check either, right? I mean, I had to really focus on it so that way I could start focusing on those extracurriculars. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and say once I married my wife, Sarah, she said, let's get that bachelor's degree done now. And I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am. So you do have to come to a point in your career. Once you feel like you're effective at where you are, I shouldn't say you feel, I should say your supervisors and commanders let you know that you are, you're tracking along nicely. Start looking at those next steps, right? Start looking at your CCAF if you don't already have it done. Start looking at your bachelor's degree if you don't have it done. For your officers, start looking at your master's. It makes a difference. It really does on the outside world. There's no way, and this is just the God's honest truth, if I couldn't click that box that says I have a bachelor's degree, I would have never been able to apply for the company I'm at. For 95% of the companies I'm at. They all put little blurbs at the bottom that say relevant experience, is accepted. But if you don't have that degree, it's just a discriminator. Don't ask me why. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just telling you, as someone who did, I don't know how many applications I put in for work. 1,000, 1,500, a lot. If you can't click that button, it is going to handicap you. So do what you have to do to get very good at your job and then start looking at that education. It is very, very important. Get outside your comfort zone. I was sitting in the, we call it the bar, I don't know what y'all call it now, down there playing the game. It was actually me and Aguilar. When Senior Master Sergeant Larman walked in and goes, hey, well, you're going to go to CRW. I'm like, 2 months. I was like, no, I'm not leaving the flying world. He was like, not really up for negotiation. I was like, damn it. Tried trading, right? I think you remember, anybody want to take this from me? And Larman, he goes, Will, this is going to set you up for success. Stop fighting on this and go. And I did not want to leave the flying community. I didn't. Zipper suited sun gods, right? I mean, I did not want to leave this world. And I went begrudgingly, kicking and screaming. Oh, I was pissed off I was leaving. I was C5 evaluator, right? I was the pinnacle of my craft. I felt great. And off to the CRW I went. And I got in there. I'm obviously looking at Collins. This is where I'm at Collins. I got in there and I was pissed. And I said, how many qualifications can you get as a 1 alpha? They said, you can get 5. And I said, cool, I'm going to do all of them. They're like, you only got 3 to 4 years here. Don't think you're going to make that happen. And I did. If you're going to do something, pissed off or not, you do it at 110%. But what I found out was once I got outside of that comfort zone, I absolutely thrived in that world. So much so, I didn't want to go back. I asked for an extension in the CRW. This is before the cancer thing happened. I didn't want to leave. I figured out that these mentors, these commanders, these first sergeants, your seniors, your chiefs that are in front of you that are trying to mentor you, don't get me wrong, there are bad leaders out there. I'm not going to say they're all great, but I would say a solid percentage of them are looking out for your best interests. And even if you don't see it, myself included, they've probably seen it before. Listen to them. I'm not saying agree with everything they say, but hear them out and think about getting outside of your comfort zone, whether it's DSD, I don't know what they got going right now, MTL, MTI. I'm not saying it's a fit for everybody, but think about it. Because I can assure you, you transition out of there and you go into, what's going on, bud? You go into something that's not your comfort zone, you may find you freaking love it. I did. I loved it. Ask them. They fly up, and I'm in Puerto Rico. I'm bombing out on my 4-wheeler like, what's up, Double Deuce? And I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know. Having fun. It really will say, it helps you broaden who you are as a person. 110%. I beat the hell out of this over and over and over again. My personal mentality about everything I do, whether I'm doing it at work, whether I'm doing it when I was in the military, is if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be really, really good at it. Sometimes to my own detriment. I'm not going to say I never got in trouble. There's people in this audience that could say I've definitely stood tall in front of the man for some actions that I may or may not have done because I thought it was in the best interest of the crew or the mission versus the needs and wants of the Air Force. But that's for each person to find, right? So it's each one of your own battles. Again, I can't give you the recipe for success. I can tell you my recipe. You have to determine the ingredients that work for you. So Tech Sergeant Harden, retired, it's a guide to life. There's 3 of them. For those of you that came to my retirement, no, it's one of my things. There are 3 things. First one is you're never stuck. No matter what you're doing in your life, you are not stuck. I promise you. Move left, move right, move front, move back. Just start moving, and Newton's laws are going to take over, right? You will continue to move, but you just have to take it, whether it's getting outside your comfort zone, whether it's a promotion, whether it's a lateral move into a different office, just start moving and things will start falling into place, right? You'll figure out how to put the pieces together, but don't ever put yourself in a rut where you're like, I'm stuck here. I don't know what I'm doing. Just start moving. Ask somebody for help. The second one is earn it and own it. It's easier for me to give this to you guys because when I give it to the civilians, they're like, earn it and own it. And I'm like, never mind. Sense of duty, purpose is self. Earning it and owning it, right? The name that you're wearing on each one of your uniforms right now is yours. That name was given to you at birth. That is yours for the rest of your life. The Air Force, on the other side, on the other hand, is not yours, right? That is borrowed. We talked about a little bit earlier. This will end in divorce someday. It has to. Every job does. Someday you're going to have to take that Air Force off and give it back. And whenever you take that Air Force off and give it back, what did you do to earn the reputation that is assigned to your name for that company, for that objective, for your country? You have to earn that every single day, and you have to look yourself in the mirror every single day and go, am I better today than I was yesterday? And if the answer to that question is that, or if the answer is ever no, then you're doing it wrong, right? It's what can I do today that makes me better than I was yesterday? It's easy to push yourself forward and want to have a lofty goal. It's easy to want to have the 6-figure salary. It's easy to want to have the good deal trips where you get to fly to Diego and Hawaii. Those are the good ones, right? It's much, much harder when life or the Air Force gives you the shitty deal and says, hey, you will do this or you won't do this, right? You're going to have to do that, but you have to step up and own that. Own that and say, even if I make a mistake, even if it's something I don't want to do, just say, that's on me. I got this. People will respect you more, and that adds to that name tag portion that you're wearing. Like, you know what? When I go to that individual, every time they don't tell me no, they figure out a way to get to yes. Figure out a way to get to yes. That's another one. We won't go into that. Figure out a way to get to yes. You figure that out, you're going to be set yourself up just fine in life. Third, and in my opinion, most importantly, is whiskey and humor. And this definitely hits home with this crowd. Whiskey and humor is just my analogy for the military, your personal lives, your professional lives. You're going to be asked to do things that maybe shake you a little bit, that you don't want to do, that are hard to unsee. Obviously, this squadron specifically has felt the loss recently. There are things that will shake you to your core internally. Do not bottle that stuff up. Whether it's one of these individuals in the front row, whether it's just your battle buddy, your friend, hell, I'm on LinkedIn, call me. Don't ever bottle that stuff up and let it get you down. If you get to a point where you're at self-harm, obviously, absolutely, the Air Force gives you all the tools in the world, and absolutely address that. But I'm talking about just, even if it's just, it's putting you back into that rut. It's putting you into a mindset where you're like, I'm stuck, man. I can't deal with this. Find someone you can talk to about it, have a drink, and have a laugh. Talk about it. Get it out. Because the second you get it out, even if you think you're going to be judged for it, you won't. I work in San Francisco. I assure you, there is no topic that anyone is going to look at you and judge you for. Even when you think they will. There's nothing you can bring up that anybody in this room will judge you for, and again, you can always call me. talk about it, get it out, have a laugh, make sure you get it off your chest, so that way you can relieve yourself of that burden and share that burden with your fellow individuals. That's going to help make you a stronger person and a better team, because that also builds trust. I think that's probably just about it for me. I know I've talked your ear off. And again, I didn't even look at my talking points, so let's hope I hit them all. I don't like to just, PowerPoint to death. I think the military will take care of that plenty. I think I told you what I was going to tell you. I told you. We can recap what I told you, but recap what I told you. And now I'm going to ask you guys, do you have any questions for me? Go.
The resume, what did you use to build the resume, tailored towards your company? Did you use like a service? Did you, what did you use?
Great question.
I'm getting into that.
Great question. TAPS class, right? It's one of those things where you're like, oh God, TAPS. All right, TAPS class is legit. Roseanne Callens, who's still at Travis Air Force Base, y'all don't know who Roseanne, even if you're not about to retire, sign up for Roseanne's LinkedIn 2.0. It'll just start getting you ahead of the power curve on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a thing, by the way, guys. Like, if you don't know, now you know. Get your LinkedIn squared away. Go take Roseanne's class on your LinkedIn, because as someone who now, I literally, part of my job at Astronis is hiring, that's one of the first things we do. We get a resume, go to their LinkedIn. I mean, and it's just it's like Facebook, but for pros, right? Like, what have they done in their career? So LinkedIn is the answer, is part of that answer. The other answer is, in TAPS, they're going to help you build your resume. I'm going to give you guys a secret sauce you're not supposed to give in TAPS. So they're going to make you do it and everything else. And then at the very end of TAPS, they say, oh, here's this website you can go to, and they will also do it for you. So not saying you should do that, because what I did is, it's called hireheroes.org. And they will assign you someone you basically dump your EPRs, OPRs on them, all your accomplishments, medals, things like that. And they kind of help put it all together and make it look, you give them like the flavor you want it to come out, tasting like, they do the best they can. And then you get it back and you have a solid, it's like somebody doing an 80%, EPR, OPR for it, then you just got to go in there and tweak it. There are top resumes, some others. I don't recommend them, but networking is a huge deal. I think Colonel Kramer alluded to it. I didn't hammer on it enough. Networking is massive. Feel free to reach out to me. The people that you meet throughout your career as well, don't lose those contacts, especially the outside civilians. Don't lose those. Those are going to set you up, because of my outside contacts, I was put in contact with an organization that's specifically for the operations type communities, that plugged me in with a coach. His name's Court Whitman. He's actually ex-Delta Force. I was like, I don't think I'm your normal clientele, but he's awesome. He also helped. Look for those things, those organizations that can kind of give you tools to set you up for success on the outside world, and they'll answer a lot of those questions. But the short and finite answer is TAPS. TAPS will give you all those things, and then don't let them bullshit you. Tell Roseanne I said so. They're going to make you write your own resume. At the end, they just tell you if you go to that. And they'll do 2 resumes. They'll do a 2-pager for like a regular job, and they'll do a 10-pager if you're looking to transition into federal, so like a GS position as well. And then there are some other companies, but I recommend Hire Heroes and then tweak it yourself. And for each job, if you're getting close to that, for every job you're targeting, the right answer is tweak the resume to read it appropriately, right? If you want to be a pilot, I don't recommend you build a resume that says, I shovel dog shit in China, right? Like, okay, that has nothing to do here. If you want to be a loadmaster, I don't recommend you say, I've only ever touched the yoke of an airplane, right? You want to tailor it so that way it reads appropriately. Shitty analogy, but you guys get what I'm saying. Please.
Yeah, I'll go on my service, so I'll see whatever you guys do. But
Yeah.
And I'm at 19 years. You mentioned they found your resume. Where did they find it?
Good question. They still won't tell me.
Okay. Because like how's somebody gonna get a job if they don't know where to put their resume at, right? And then with that, like, what are some actionable steps that people can take in order to get to where you were at from this point to that?
Good question. I like where you're at. So posting LinkedIn, again, LinkedIn has an incredible job search, right? LinkedIn is, knowing what I know now, I'd almost be willing to bet. They won't let you look at Lever. Lever's an internal software thing companies use to hire. You can't see your own, and they're not supposed to tell you, but I'm 99% sure it's LinkedIn's how they found me. ZipRecruiter's another one, Monsters, and The Ladders. The Ladders is strictly 6-figure salary jobs. It's all they offer. I know that sounds lucrative and awesome, and it is. But at the same time, if that's not what you're going for, don't waste your time with it because they charge. But ZipRecruiter is a solid one. There's a couple others, but LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter are the two that I recommend the best. That's I know how we find people. LinkedIn being the primary. Actionable steps. That is a really, really good question. What can you do right now? I cannot emphasize TAPS enough. Granted, again, guys, remember I retired 5 years early, so I'm not really an old timer, but I guess I am now. But your 19, your 20-year guys, right? I used to hear them like, oh, I got to go do TAPS, whatever. And then you'll see them; they'll be wearing civvies for a couple of days. They get to the end, and I was kind of dragging my feet on it. You can actually take certain portions of TAPS class before you're going to retire. I genuinely going through it, and I hate sitting in mandatory fun or mandatory training. That's dumb. It was great. I mean, TAPS really, really, really set me up. So if you want an actionable item right now, if you're getting close to retiring, go talk to the Airman and Family Readiness Center and see what resources they have. I know it sounds like a knee-jerk, all-encompassing answer, but no, they really do have legit resources. And tell Roseanne I sent you. Just go talk to Roseanne Callens. Tell her this is what I'm wanting to do. She has an incredible network and really does have a lot of answers for set you up for success on that. I've posted about it. Without Roseanne and a coach, I don't know where I'd be. There's another one, a coach. There are different military organizations that will offer you access to a coach. Some of them are only for maybe 4 or 5 sessions. Some of them they may ask for some. Mine now I have to pay them $125 an hour, but initially the first 10 were free, right? There was an organization that took care of the bill. A coach, and mine specifically, he helped me. Roseanne helped me put all the military stuff into a pretty package in resume style. My coach helped me take the military core values, right? Integrity first, service before self, excellence. We all know those, right? What are yours? What are your individual core values, right? What makes you you? What makes you different from every other person? Only you know that, but you need to figure out how you can articulate that onto paper and then put that into a thought process, because my coach has me turn those into share stories. You want to talk about a kick-ass interview? Probably the reason I got the job, I had to give 2 presentations in part of my 7-hour interview. The first one was how to physically get the spacecraft from California out to the Cape. And conveniently, we happen to know some people that do that for a living. So I had some really good presentations. Like, damn, this guy's really good. I'm like, yeah, I also called every NASA contact I had. So I did that one. My second presentation was an Alpha Mike trip to Ecuador. I demilled it, made it. All they wanted to talk about was the Alpha Mike, which was, I put 5 minutes. It just took all the classified stuff out of it and made it kind of generic. That's all they cared about. Because what they want to know, they want your share stories. I told you guys a little earlier, the outside world is thirsty for what you guys have. There's not a person that I know of that looks at a military member that goes, that person's probably dumb as hell. There's no fun. I'm sure they're out there, but screw them. Right? You guys have the way you carry yourselves, the way you act. I almost forgot. I was having a conversation with my VP this morning, and I was talking to him about this particular speaking engagement I was going to do. And I jokingly said, I don't know why they want me to come speak. He gave me the best reason. I'm going to read it to you guys. I made him say it again. I said, say that again, Ted. He said, because you're adaptive with a bias for intelligent process analysis and direct execution. That's what the military is. There's not been one time, or maybe there has been, but probably none of you will admit to, that you guys have been out on the road or faced with a problem set that you didn't go, okay, how am I going to think about this? Hell, think about it. It's a C5. Every time you land somewhere, it's a new deal, right? I mean, sure, if you got a decent primary load, you call ahead and maybe have an idea what you're going to do. You get helicopters today, you get tanks, you get strikers, you get pallets. You got 1.4 on board? Shit, anybody looked at 24-204? Every single time you land, it's a new set of issues you got to figure out, right? You are, by definition, one of the most adaptive groups on the planet. And then after you figure out how you're going to handle the situation, you guys get together as a group and go, okay, now we're going to execute. CRW, Tom, same thing. You guys you specialize in it. And that is what the outside world looks for, because, and I told you guys, I work with smart people. I was putting together, side project, putting together part of our clean room the other day. We're putting a second clean room in front of the satellite. And one of our electrical engineers, who is very, very intelligent, literally, he was blue hair dyed, super smart, really, really out there guy. Beep, beep, he's got his meter going, teet, 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 teet. And I just happen to be standing there. And I look over, I said, what's the problem? Obviously, I can hear that you're ohming out a resistor. He said, I don't know what this tube's for. It's just dumb. And I just looked at it, and it was heat discolored. Or have we seen heat discoloration before? I don't know. Pick a pallet, tube on the jet, pick anything. We don't know what heat discoloration looks like. I said, it's probably thermal. And he goes, oh, it's thermal, guys. And everybody thought, I'm like, I'm just going to go back to put my clean room together here, right? Like, you guys are so adaptive, but it's not just that you can adapt to anything you're doing in the moment. It's that you can pretty quickly articulate a thought and go, and that's the direction you can take. You can't build that into people. You can over a long period of time, aka what you guys are doing now. But you can't, I mean, you have to be a certain personality to have that capability where you can look at a situation, adapt to it, and then tell the whole team, this is how we're going to get to here, right? And 95% of the time, people will line up behind you. You may not have the best answer, but you've got an answer, and they will get right behind you and be like, that's who I'm following. And they will. They're thirsting for it. You guys have it in spades. The only obstacle between you and a six-figure salary job someday is putting it on paper. The biggest thing I struggle with when I'm doing these speaking engagements is not so much telling stories. I'm decently okay at talking. I want to say it all. But then we did this, and there was Rhoda, and then there was Diego, and then there was Iraq and Balad, and I did all this stuff. I know I did it. You guys know you did it. But how do you make them see it, hear it, and understand it, and then articulate it into what is going to set you up for success? That's the secret. That is the true secret. And only you have the answers to that, for those ingredients to that recipe for success. And each one of those is very individual to you. Another question. That was a long answer for that. Sorry about that. I told you guys I like to talk. Sorry, sir. Any other questions? Ties, Stanabel, AMC, that happened. All right. Just so you guys know, I can remember literally choking him out in Rhoda Spain. It's a story he can tell you another time. Seriously, any other questions for me? Nothing's off the table. Military, how to pass a check or have a tie, watch Dave Chappelle show, Kramer, all that good stuff. Any secrets? There's no other questions. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, quick question. So you said you look at LinkedIn and those evaluations. What is the general sentiment with, do you list all the jobs you've had or only your most impressive, your key one? What would put you off when looking at a LinkedIn resume?
That's a good question. So I think the general answer is you should list every job that you've done within reason. And I know that's kind of vague when you say within reason, right? If you are a cashier at Target before you join the military, and that's 40% of your work experience before you got here, say you're getting out at 4, 6, 8 years, right? You may need to put that because they just may see the one. Now, if you've been in the military for 19 years, and you've had X number of positions, and before that you were, changed oil at a Jiffy Lube or something like that. Not saying you shouldn't put that on there, or, whatever volunteer. You can, you absolutely can. And LinkedIn does you a solid and only lists, I think your most recent 5 positions, and you have to click to show more if you want to go down. And we do. I would say as long as it's not negative, which don't ever lie. I mean, if you get questioned about what you're doing, or, hey, tell us about this, tell the truth. Don't ever, integrity first, genuinely, that core value goes the rest of your life, right? Integrity first, it should be ingrained in you. But if it is something where I left that job because I punched my manager in the face because he was an idiot. Legally, when I call a company to check and say, hey, I'm calling about, Mr. Trumbull. If he was good, if they love him, they can tell me all they want. They can go, oh my God, best guy in the world. That dude was at every bake sale. He gave us the best products. If he was horrible, all they can legally say is, I wouldn't hire him again. They can't tell me why. They can't say anything. If they do, it's a lawsuit that he could file against his ex-employer. But if I hear those words, I wouldn't hire him again, it's definitely going to put a downer on that. So list everything you think is pertinent to the job you're chasing. But if there's negative stuff in there, as long as it doesn't put a significant gap in your employment. If it puts a 6-year gap in there, I'm going to be like, so for 6 years, what were you doing to pay the bills? You may have to tell them, you may have to do that. So that's the answer to that question if it answers that. And Roseanne Callens, again, her LinkedIn 2.0 class is both 1.0 and 2.0, but her LinkedIn class is far and away one of the best classes this space offers to help people, look at outside engagements. absolutely, seriously recommend it. Did that answer? I'm sorry.
Yeah, my primary thought was just, because my work history, I have a lot of overlapping.
Mhm.
So while they're not like the most robust jobs, I thought it kind of told the story of having multiple jobs at one time.
Overlapping is not a bad thing, especially in today's world. Like, I mean, half the people that I work with have side gigs. So, I mean, everything's overlapping nowadays. And it's, I'm a VP of this thing, and then I'm the, associate level of this thing. And it's just like, yeah, we get it. People have different gigs that they're doing simultaneous and stuff like that. If anything, it just shows the depth of, person you are. It shows your versatility. So don't be afraid to overlap stuff. And LinkedIn understands that as well. Anything else? All right. Thank you guys for listening to me. Thank you for letting me talk for literally an hour. I did that on the nose. Well done, me. Seriously, I want to end by turning it back over and saying a little bit of a heartfelt moment. You guys don't know what this stage means to me, what this room means to me, what this building means to me, what that airplane means to me. And I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. The experiences that I built in this squadron changed me for the better and set me up so someday I could be where I'm at today. I cannot emphasize that enough. Do not waste it. Take advantage of every moment. Cherish every moment. From the training, to the ship missions, to the good deals, to the Bravos, to the occasional Charlies if you get a good aircraft commander. Enjoy it. Take it seriously. Put it in your pocket. Remember it. Because absolutely this means something. It means something to you now. It will mean something to you later. Do not waste this opportunity. Thank you guys for serving. Thank you for hopefully not screwing the jet up and the legacy that us guys that came before you left. I'm very proud to say I'm a part of this room. I'm very proud to say I'm a part of your heritage. And seriously, if you guys ever need me, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on all the medias except for Twitter. Nobody knows Twitter. Hit me up. Thank you. Thank you very much.
First, apologize for stepping out there. I had a phone conversation I need to have with the vice wing, who's had an appointment that I wasn't tracking. But Will, thanks for this. This was awesome. There's a lot of themes that Will said, throughout the brief and at the very end that resonated with me. This is the first one I've met. Well, we've never met before, right?
Yes, sir.
How many of those things that he just talked to, we talk about all the time up here? How many years has separated you from this stage now?
6.
6 years. We talk about legacy and the double deuce, right? We talk about small teams. We talk about being a multi-capable team leader, right? In those small teams, whether it's going to be on the road in the jet, or whether it's going to be in garrison in your shop. I mean, he talked about those traits and those characteristics that we ingrain in you, and you take it with you to your next life, because everyone's going to have a next life, whether it's going to be after their first term of enlistment or after 25 years. We're talking to Chief Frappier, right? It's going to happen. There's going to be a divorce that occurs, right? It's nice if it's amicable, you know what I mean? Nice if it's good, but you're going to take those different traits, characteristics, experiences with you that are really hard to put on a paper to a certain extent, other than just talking about your story, right? And documenting those points along the way. A lot of them are EPRs, a lot of them are awards, things like that. So it's important to write that down so you can tell your story. And how much of what you do is all about just telling a story.
Absolutely.
And boiling down a complex problem into what fits this situation. And like Will said, we're really good at that because we do it on the fly. We do it when we're on the ground in Auburn. We're trying to figure out this complex cargo load. When it's not been JI, we do it in the air for the pilots, right? When we have a situation that occurs with the engineers, on aircraft system malfunction, et cetera, we have to divert into Italy, right? And hopefully get put in Charlie, because that's nice. This is really important to listen to, because there was no syncing that really occurred between Will and I. So we talk about legacy and double D's. Like, this is a perfect example of how your legacy, you said here, will carry you forward to do awesome things in the future with Astronauts. Like, I was looking down like, holy smokes, like, I want to come down there, on an offsite and just see what you guys do and sign up. Non-disclosure agreement.
We'll make it happen.
Because it's badass. So, Will, I just want to thank you. Come on up here, man. On behalf of the Double Deuce, we have our new squadron coin. You haven't seen this one.
I have
We got a
not.
little pop out there to play golf, to put as a ball marker on the green. And of course, the Double Deuce Friday insignia, part of our heritage. And you'll always be part of us.
Thank you
Once
very
Amelia,
much.
always Amelia.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Old habits.
All right. thanks for joining online, everybody who did, and we're gonna record this and put it on YouTube, so spread it around to your friends. This is just an awesome piece to listen to, that's gonna live on, right? These things survive 6 years, it's gonna continue. That's all I've got for this team. Thanks for coming by. Don't forget tomorrow your flight commander all calls are gonna be, at, I think 9 o'clock, unless your flight or shop is coordinated with you. That's all I've got, guys. Thanks for mission partners that have come. So Lieutenant Colonel Poon showed up from Comm Squadron. We got CRG here as well. CRG showed up. Awesome. That's good stuff, right? So another thing we're doing is expanding outside the squadron, expanding outside the OG, and talking even outside the wing, right, with the CRG, to other mission partners here at Travis, so we can share some experiences, because relationships are important too, right? I could talk 10 minutes about that, but I won't. We'll save that for another PD. That's all I got, guys. You carry on. Thanks again. Dude, that was awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much for having us.
We're gonna keep this right.